This is Camila Shakur conducting an interview here with, what's your name?
Dr. Yusef Shakur.
And where were you born?
I was born in Detroit in 1973 on the west side of the Sinai Grace Hospital. Um, First house I went to was on Indiana Street on Puritan, my auntie's house, but my grandfather owned our family home at 2431, no, 22, excuse me, I'm confusing this house, 2241 Ferry Park. So predominantly my life has been growing up in Zone 8 neighborhood.
So you are a true blue West Sider.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
got you. And do you know the story of how your family got to Detroit?
A little bit. My grandfather, as I mentioned, he's from Georgia. So coming through the Great Migration, he was the first adult from his family to migrate up north. Leaving the brutal white South to come to the brutal white North. Got a job in the factory. The rest is history, so to speak. Actually, the house that he bought in 1952 down the street, he was one of the first black families to move in what was called a predominantly Jewish neighborhood. I'm not sure at the time if it was called Northwest Goldberg, but at some point, the Goldberg individual becomes the predominant character of this area. Most people don't know there was a elementary school called Goldberg, which I attended. And so that was only relationship to that name, to the area in my childhood growing up. My grandmother, she was a child when her parents migrated from Alabama. So she was well. My grandmother was born in Alabama, but they moved back to Georgia, so they came from Georgia as well.
Okay. My dad migrated up here from Georgia too, from Macon.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And my grandfather from Savannah.
okay,
Mm-hmm.
gotcha. Um, and we've already kind of talked about like what your connection is to the neighborhood, being born here, your family being here. Um, what was it like to live here, to work here, to socialize? What do you remember about that?
It's an interesting question. I was in preparing for this interview, I was really reflecting on my childhood. I think I'm one of the last generation of growing up in a stable black neighborhood, but it's on the cusp of deteriorating. So I'm in that in between phase of seeing. So right street you had Crockett's store, which Crockett's had like 3 stores in this area. You had P&J's. It wasn't black owned, but it was still a neighborhood business, technically like a Coney Island. You had Miss Penny's liquor store. Big Daddy owned the gas station right on Ferry Park and 14. You had the barber shop that was black owned. You had Joy's Meat Market, again, wasn't black owned, but all these businesses, along with this is the emergence of the penny candy stores is coming about. Like it's all influence or having some level of impact on me, and then you usher in crack cocaine, which is you have the heroin epidemic, but it's not as prevalent. So you're seeing it, and then also I have to mention the logging store. So we're surrounded by a level of sustainability to some degree, but then gangs, drug gangs. So these two conflicting ideas are at war with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm growing up in this, and I don't know it's a war, but this is what I'm growing up in. So I was the youngest of hanging with my homeboys. All of them was like 2, 3, 4 years older than me, and we pretty much ran the neighborhood like our own version of the Little Rascals. And getting into Little Rascal type trouble and
Mm-hmm.
things of that nature, playing basketball, football, baseball. I mean, baseball was very prevalent when I was a kid because Northwestern, the old Northwestern, how it was designed, you had which you still had the fields, but people predominantly was playing hard ball up there. So again, that was like a venture to leave. I mean, you're only going like 2 or 3 blocks, but it was long blocks, and you get up
Mm-hmm.
there and there's all this open land, green field, and it's just as a young person, like wow, like it's like taste of freedom. And we would steal the balls and come back and play with them in the neighborhood and things. And so that was our adventure. And then at some point, that transition, also my friends of that group began to move away. And as they move away, I mean, other folks I knew, but now we become friends, and as we become friends, we're no longer operating as little rascals. We're operating in a different way because the older guys are like I'm 10, 10, 11. They may go get the next guy 10, 11, and they create this boxing ring right in the street and have us fight each other. And like literally, like, it's like a gladiator thing. Um, but you don't. And all these guys I know, right? They're older than me. You kind of idolize them as a kid and things, but you're not knowing that what they're setting you up for in the future, what your life becomes. So this is the climax of what I'm experiencing, and also again as a result of the drug traffic and the drug epidemic. That word of Detroit being known as the murder mitten becomes very sociable because with drugs comes violence. So there's the sweep of violence that's happening. And at that time, I didn't know there was an organization, Save Our Sons and Daughters. I don't know if you heard of that. It started literally right in this neighborhood. Clement Barfield, Clementine Barfield, her son was killed right on Linwood and the Boulevard. He went to Northwestern High School. And then I had one of my
Do you remember what year that was? Around what year?
This between 86 and 88. Actually, I'll forward you. There's a documentary they did. I'll send you that because a friend of mine, Jesse Fair, he's like 2 or 3 years older than me. Jesse gets in the drug gang. He's down on the other end, 12, cross 12, selling drugs, and they're playing Russian roulette in the drug house or what back then what we called the spot. And Jesse gets shot, and all these guys are young teenagers, and they didn't know what to do, so they took Jesse's body. He's not dead, and they put in when we used to have the trash cans, they put him in the trash can. Fortunately enough, he lived, and Jesse he becomes a spokesperson for our son's and daughter. I can remember those things, but I'm not connecting this. So this is the climate that's shaping what I call like the social storm and stuff. Yeah.
Gotcha. I remember during the conversation we had earlier or last week, you had said something about like the gangs kind of like taking the place of the creativity that was happening before like you were born and stuff like that. So it was like the creativity, much like the socialization aspect, seemed to be more so about like survival rather than like really creating or imagining different things. Is that fair to say?
It is. It's funny you asked that question this morning. On my way here, I saw one of my big homeboys, and he's waiting at the bus stop, and I picked him up, and we just reflecting on the name Zone 8 because it's a little different history. Some people say that it came from the police officer Larry Nevers that killed Malice Green, him and the other officer. And so we was, because there's a few people that have told me, my cousin, older cousin down the street, like, man, Zone 8 is on my birth certificate.
Wow.
And he said that this morning. And I said the same thing that you said, like, wow. And like, so if Zone 8 is on his birth certificate, then that debunks the myth that the name comes from the police
Oh
officer.
yeah, 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 yeah.
It predated that. So again, Zone 8 is just becomes the monarchy for the neighborhood. It's not a gang. It's just a monarchy. But there are gangs that do exist. There's the T-Stones, which is on the other end, you know what I'm saying, towards just across Linwood. And then where we at right here, you have what became the Gangster Flints. all in the Zone 8 neighborhood. And most of them were childhood friends or whatever, and they was rivals. So to your point, their expression is of being at T-Stone, mean Gangster Flynn was creative. It's the socialization and as a result of oppression that the creativity becomes negatively. But you're trying to actually express something positively, doing things and within the neighborhood context. So this is what it morphs into where I come of age, and like I said, we transition from Little Rascals to fighting to now we become Zone 8. And so like the neighborhood name Zone 8 existed long before the gang. It was just a natural, unfortunate progression of what we were seeing already and stuff.
Thank you for that.
You're
That
welcome.
gives a lot of context. Because I do feel like every time I see or hear or read something about Zone 8, it's like it's automatically attached to gang activity.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing that it predates that and that it was like so official that it was on somebody's birth
Mm-hmm.
certificate, that's a really important piece.
And let me add this too as well. Again, they became so intertwined, it was hard to make the separation from the gang and the neighborhood. So again, say like you and I would say, we're siblings. I'm in the gang, I'm fighting, and I have enemies. And ultimately, sometimes they may target you as a result of me.
Right.
And you're like, that's my brother. I ain't with that gang shit and blah, blah, blah. But you get so harassed so often, and you're like, shit, I'm Zone A too then. Like
Right.
you end up getting jumped in where
By
not.
association.
And this is where the line get confused because when I say you go out and like, where you from? From Zone 8. You just saying I'm from the neighborhood. But people on the outside, they're not differentiating. You're not meaning the gang. This is just where I grew up at. This is where I live at.
Gotcha. So you've already talked about some of the businesses that were around. Like, I feels like you were mainly naming stores, like grocery stores, liquor stores,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. What about churches in the area? Do you remember any churches when you were growing up that your family went to or that had things for kids or anything like that?
So two churches stick out in my mind. King Solomon Church. Uh, it had the recreation component to it, so you can go box, you can go skate, numerous other things. I wasn't interested in boxing, but I would go skate. But some of my bigger homeboys they was interested. I actually guy who was a family member of my younger sister, Greg Williams. He became a very good boxer. Some argue say he possibly could have went professional. He ended up getting killed. Again, you're in the life, or you're caught up in the social dynamics of the changing guard, so to speak. I think St. Peter's Church around right here on 15th in Marquette. It's a new one now, but it used to be an old one. We used to have a white pastor. It had, and actually, yeah, when they transitioned to the new one, so they used to do what you can come get food. My mother used to cook there. So those two churches throughout my young life, my middle life, and my adult life, I've seen those. There's other churches in the area. I didn't attend them, but also let me forget. Holy Cross right here on Linwood. It had a gym. So when I was older, it was a place that we guys in the neighborhood that we can go play basketball, and both these things of closing the doors, and we can discuss or debate why the doors was closed, but the fact when they closed, it further pushed folks deeper into the streets.
Right.
Because in the '80s, because we're in the shadows of 67 rebellion, right there where it jumped off at. So that corridor Linwood or not Linwood, 12th gets redeveloped, and when it gets redeveloped, you have the Joseph Walker Community Center is born there, and so here's the thing too. As I'm coming of age, transitioning Little Rascals, into being more out and doing things, you now associate areas with gangs. 12th Street, the 12th Street Boys, cross the boulevard for that's Boys Town, cross the boulevard in Linwood, the 6 minutes, further going up, all right, it becomes Untouchable. Scandalous Boys, cross I-96, is 30th Boys, Gucci Boys. Most and older people don't know this because it's not in their world. But in my worldview and in our age group, this is like, so you tell me like, hey, let's go up on 12th and Euclid. I'm not going up there, like, because again, this is another territory, and you don't see it now. Like, you can literally be walking down the street, and you got a group of guys sitting on the porch, and they like, "Why you over here? Who was you?" And they don't necessarily have malice in their heart, but it's recreation, it's creative. Let's go pick on you. I may had on a colorful shirt that day, and not looking. It wasn't dressed for trouble, but it found me because what they say, the when you don't have nothing to do, trouble finds you. And so this is getting put, like, most people from a sociology standpoint don't understand that.
Right.
And so this is, later in my life, I see that because on this parallel, there's what Dr. Carl Taylor talks about, the third, what he calls the third city, which is the places that are strictly impacted by discrimination, poverty, and then what I talk about, the third hoods. And the third hoods gets deeper into what we're looking at, where it becomes extreme poverty, single mothers, fathers are incarcerated, drugs, like, it's prevalent, and it's kind of like, there's certain areas you ain't going out at past midnight.
Right.
And this is what I'm growing up with. This is what that reality is every day.
Gotcha. It was interesting too, like when you framed the like you walking down the block or whatever, and somebody asking like where you from and stuff like that, and that being a mode of creativity. It just kind of like made me think of how like rap is really about like rapport. It's about like how we talk to each other, how we communicate with each other. So being in a space where it's like I'm sitting here because this is my block, this is where I know what to do, and then somebody that I don't recognize comes onto the block, then yeah, now I have to be creative in like what I say or whatever, because what else am I supposed to do, which I think is interesting. um so yeah, we talked about the churches. I wanted to ask if there were like any performance venues in this neighborhood. I haven't been able to find anything about that. However, I know that the Bluebird Inn, obviously, I don't think that that was like up and running during the 80s, but it's not that far. Like if you get on the bus, like you can get from the Bluebird Inn to that neighborhood. So when I saw that, I was like, maybe I should still ask about this.
I don't have enough information. What I will talk about is, across the street from where King Solomon Church is. So you have where the actual church is today. That actually used to be the gospel. I mean, like, world class gospel will come and perform there. So in most, I didn't know it as a child. I actually learned about that in my adulthood, because actually on the other side, that was the church building.
Yeah.
So just, imagine you had a building like this house is just strictly for gospel performance. Like, no small time thing. Down the street, there used to be a bowling alley. I'm pretty sure there's some things that may happen up in there. Used to be a black bar up on Grand River. You have, a lot of people don't know Olympia Stadium. It was in this neighborhood.
Olympia what?
Olympia Stadium.
Olympia Stadium.
Yeah, it used to be on right there on Grand River. I mean, it was right on, but however, it was right here in the neighborhood. Malcolm X spoke there. I mean, you name it. It happened. It happened there. And also, again, Malcolm X spoke at the King Solomon Church too. The 20 Grand Hotel, that was, it's not in zoning, but it's right. It's like where I-94 is right on, on the other side of I-94. That was like a kind of a juke joint. Again, the juke. I mean, you had a lot of like juke joints in the area. You can remember, you think about that time period from going from 60s, 70s, even where the rebellion started. That was classified as a juke joint after hours.
Gotcha. In your
Oh, I'm
experience,
sorry, and too. House parties.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in my era, house party become the thing of growing up.
What was the main music that was being played? Was it mainly like rap and R&B that was being played at house parties?
I mean, R&B. You had the emergence of rap, the Run DMC, the Fat Boys, Houdini, Curtis Blow, things of that nature.
Do you felt like that that music was like speaking to y'all experience in Detroit, or was it just more so enjoyable?
More so enjoyable. I think the first time I probably unconsciously felt that way when I heard the Ghetto Boys, "My Mind Playing Tricks on Me," like that song. It resonated. Also, Public Enemy, "It Takes a Million to Hold Us Back." That album, Boogie Down Production, Criminal Minded, their first album, uh, Ice Cube's first album, like, and it was just something about those lyrics for me that like they just like those are my artists, those songs. But also again on the flip side, so I remember Public Enemy, "It Takes a Nation, a Million to Hold Us Back." My older homeboy took that title of the album and flipped it, and the moniker becomes, "It's gonna take a nation to stop us from making millions." Like,
Hmm.
he came up with it, but like, I fuck with that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, you're young and you're getting more what we think is a lifestyle, which is a death style. And there's elements in the music, particularly when you go back, like if you listen to Criminal Minded, it's a very extreme hardcore album, but there's elements to the song. Some of the songs that like his name is knowledge rules supreme over nearly everyone, and he's like, I'm not trying to be a king, I want to be a teacher. Like those things, like as a young person that they're speaking to me, I'm not fully developing what he's saying. So when I compare that to like when Jay-Z and Nas and Biggie, they're rapping about who want to be the king of New York, comparing to that time where KRS One saying, "I'm not trying to be the king of New York. I'm trying to be a teacher in New York to teach you." Like totally two different constructs
Mm-hmm.
of social development through music.
Absolutely. Um, I want to ask, do you remember when you came in contact with Hush House or with Baba Charles, or like what time around that was?
So it had to be like 2000, somewhere between 2008 and 2000. I was 2007 and 2010, somewhere up in there. And learning about the Hush House. By the time I'm knowledgeable, know some things. So walking in the house, it resonated with me immediately. Meeting Barbara Charles and learning his history. He's from the neighborhood, so it was meeting a big homeboy. Um, Actually, if I'm not mistaken, I think I met Mama.
Mama Sandra.
I met her first because she was part of a group called Hope, helping our prison elevate. And so some of my comrades was part of that group, and they recruited me, and she had sons that was unfortunately had been associated with the prison system. So as a mother, she was found her voice through there, and then at some point I get connected to, because I don't know, they might have been together at the time, I can't remember, but at some point I get connected to the Hush House.
Gotcha. When do you feel like a transition started to be made with you personally, and like the difference in how you were engaging with the neighborhood as a young adult versus like, I'm grown now, this is how I want to engage with this space, this is what I want to try to build here?
Well, all that comes out of my growth, my transformation inside of prison. So again, I went to prison for a crime I didn't do. It was associated with the neighborhood, the gang of the neighborhood, where they done some things because I was with the gang, and the officer had made a promise to my mother that if he had the opportunity to send me to prison, he was, and he seized that moment. And in prison, I began to, upon meeting my father, had a tremendous impact on me to redeem and transform my life through books. So my worldview begins to change, how I saw the world, and more importantly, how I saw myself. So when I come home, I saw the death and destruction in my neighborhood growing up, but I didn't know that was death, and that's in that literal sense. I didn't know that was destruction because I saw I'm part of it. I'm contributing to it. Now I'm like, wow, like and it because I don't know that's how to explain it. It's like when you growing up or raised in poverty, you become poverty, right? And not saying like this, not only like that framework, what they call poverty mindset.
Mm-hmm.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm talking from a social condition. You're socially conditioned to accept your social conditions, right? My transformation allowed me to rise above that. Right? Poverty is what it is, but I can name it now. I can name these things and understand like that's death. That's social death. That's self destruction. Before I couldn't name those things.
Mm-hmm.
I was manipulated into them, and so like you're gonna Ted Washington. You're gonna interview his son Daniel Possibly. So when I was a kid, prior to going to prison, Ted used to live on 16. Daniel wasn't born yet, but none of his kids probably was. And he saw me and one of my child friends, Kenwood, like, hey, y'all want to do some work? Sure. And he wanted to move some bricks or whatever. And it was some hard work. Like, man, I'm not about to move these damn bricks. Not for no $15 whatever. And coming home, I reflected on like he was just trying to help us out. Like he was trying to get, even though he didn't necessarily explain it, he didn't make it self relatable. That's what made the job seem so hard and despicable because he didn't engage as a human being. He engaged as a service, or not even a service, as a job, and which felt exploitive.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, as in my daughter, to your question, I appreciated that. Within the framework of what I was seeing,
Yeah.
that was a contrasting difference than anything else. And so, in particular, again, on Ferry Park, down the street where I grew up, it was lots that we own, and then there used to be apartment building or house, apartment building, and then there was a lot. When you grow up and you walk through a lot so much that it creates a trail. And I remember this trail, and it was despicable. But again, you walk through it every day. You don't realize you walk through the script. When I come home, I see flowers.
Hmm.
It's no longer a walking trail. It could be, but it's more conducive to a neighborhood. So like I'm appreciating that in contrasting to what it was.
Yeah.
But my mind, because of the knowledge and how I see it, allows me to appreciate that. Appreciate that. And even though I still see destruction, I see beauty too. And I appreciated Mr. Washington for doing that, even though he may not meant it for everybody and was just for him and his family. But it shows like what we could do, how we can rise above our social conditions if we work together. But that was part of transformation, and the transforming myself and seeing the beauty in myself allowed me to see the beauty in others. So long as I saw myself through the ugly lens, I'm gonna see the world ugly.
Right. That makes a lot of sense. And like as you were explaining it, I just found it kind of interesting that like that transformation and your perspective being broadened happened through, not through the neighborhood, but through incarceration, where
Mm.
it's like everything is getting smaller, but yet your perspective is getting bigger,
Right.
which happens with a lot of young black men.
And let me just name too. So going back to kind of your question, you can fit it in there. So in that process, you have Soul Day, which is happening up at Northwestern High School. At the time, I don't know none of the history. I just know Soul Day.
Mhm.
And so it always happened in August. Like we can literally be like right here on the porch, hot day, and you hear the music, boom, 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 the sound. And you just like, oh shit, it's Soul Day. And you all the neighboring surrounding neighborhoods will all come on Soul Day. It's like a 3-4 day. In the early stages of it in the 70s or the 60s going to 70s, you had Motown artists perform, you had speakers. It was that deal. I didn't know that. And so again, because of the how that warring ideas that's taking place, it's deteriorating on our level because we didn't grow appreciating it. We didn't know the value of it. So we just going up there. This is where I probably can catch my enemy, or my enemy can catch
Mm,
me. So while all these fun activities going on, we may be trying to break into somebody's car.
mm.
We may doing mischievous, criminal, along with that some of us turn to violence. So again, this is where it's happening, but you're seeing on the grandstand right here in this neighborhood, culture, um, arts, creativity, a positive at a very high level that takes place. I think it ran for 45 years.
Yeah, when you mentioned it to me last week, and I looked it up, I was able to get some more information. Um, Definitely plan to dig into that more because I'm very shocked that that was the first time I heard about it.
Hmm.
Um, but yes, I was.
But it also gets to the point what you're doing. Unfortunately, and this is the thing about where we at in this neighborhood, and this is why I have issues, I have string issues with white developers who are coming in as if like this is the 1800s, as if the indigenous people wasn't there.
Mhm.
We just gonna stick our flag in and call this Cape Town or whatever, right? And also with the black developers, and the archives of our history is not being archived. It's not being told. And so if you don't know who you are, as they say, the conqueror will rewrite the history and write you out of the history. So you having these new cultural experiences, new cultural expression, like, and some people, but you don't know, you're like, but it's the first time. Hold up, it's not the first time.
Right.
We've been doing this type of stuff long before you even was thought of. It may be a disconnect, and this again, like why I emphasize Zone 8, because whether good, bad, or indifferent, it kept us alive. It kept us prevalent. When no one else was looking at us, we looked at ourselves.
Mhm.
We found a way out of it. May have not been the best way, but nevertheless, we survived. I can walk you down. I can tell you who got killed here, who happened here, and so when we erase the name Zone 8, we're erasing those lives. We're erasing those stories.
Mhm.
Again, all those stories are not great stories, but they're stories nevertheless. That helps build this house. That helps build a better future for our neighborhood.
Absolutely. What can you tell me about Mama Akua House? Like how this came to be, why it came to be.
Great question. So before Mama Coa Community House, there was the Urban Network Cyber Cafe up on Grand River in McGraw. So it was a business building that's adjacent to each other. You had my three sons, the liquor store that was on that end. That was the most popular liquor store. So right there at that section of Grand River and McGraw, a lot used to go on. That's where the races at. Um, if you're leaving downtown, you stop there, get you some liquor. So it was always like a hotbed for different activities. Um, One day I'm walking down Grand River and I see a for rent sign. So I go in the store and I say, I'm not for Fred, like, what's up with the store? Like, yeah, you took it's available, it's for rent. I'm like, for real? And I called a few of my homies, like, man, I'm thinking about renting this store, man. We can at the time I was into music and stuff. It was got a little record label, whatever. I had no business plan. I just had motivation and initiation. And some of my homeboys bought into it, and we opened it up. It was like a hole in the wall joint. It started off. We was doing poetry out of it, and then because of my affiliation with the Bog Center, there was a big production company through a foundation that was coming in, wanted to interview myself and others, and they gave us a grant, and I got a $25,000 grant. And so the building adjacent to it used to be a barber shop. It closed, so I rented that out, and we this is the birth of the Urban Network Cyber Cafe. So because also I go to Fred's liquor store one day because one of my rituals to buy a newspaper every morning, and there was none in there. I'm like, what happened to the newspaper, Fred? And Fred says very loudly and very proudly, nobody over here buy a newspaper. Nobody over here reads. Like, what do you mean nobody reads? Like just the anti-blackness and the ease of it just pour it out. And so I'm like, all right,
Why am I asking for a thing if
right.
nobody over here reads?
So that was the birth of the bookstore, but it became so much more. It was very educational to me in the sense of what power represents, in the sense of like there was a community member named Sue. Sue was very colorful, very loving, but a very troubled person too. Sue liked the spirits, and she would drink the spirits, and instead of going home and going to sleep after drinking those spirits, the liquor, she would come in the bookstore and just get on the couch and go to sleep. At first, it bothered me, and after a while, like Sue was a member of our community. Like now, like while you and I were literally conducting this interview, Sue is on the couch sleeping. She ain't snoring, but she just minding herself. And I'm like, because I can't go sleep publicly and somewhere public. But she's teaching me something, which is she feels comfortable here. I feel more comfortable here than going home. Like that was moving to me once that aha came. A lot of people in the neighborhood, they didn't necessarily come in and buy books or anything, but they came in nevertheless. They looked through the books. And such as this interview, they like, what's going on? Why are you interviewing him? And the thing is, I can't say, I don't know. They could say, they can know. No one, but also what we learned, nobody was coming to talk to them. No one's coming to ask them information to archive. So we lost so much because people was being ignored. But also too, it taught me how our neighborhoods are surveillance too. Because I remember one time somebody was doing a tour in the neighborhood, they had a camera, and one of the big homeboys was like, man, that ain't the feds. And it wasn't, but again, it educated me because that's how they have come in our community. But through me being a tool and a vessel, the urban network where we transitioned to over here, like you would meet people, and that you would build your own relationship with them, and they like I ain't necessarily got to be here for you to talk to them. And so this becomes the bridge, and these what these institutions become. So this house. Um, it has gone through multiple phases besides just being a regular house. When I was a child, numbers man lived upstairs, and then at some point it becomes a crack house. Not only they selling crack, they smoking crack inside, so it had some fire damage. And then a white guy ended up buying the house, and he was just catching hell. The little guys, they were just breaking in. They were just harassing him for just no reason, and he just got fed up. And so on that same timeline, out here on Fair Park, we're doing our backpack event every year. So at that time, we were probably we're over 10, close to 10 years. So he's deciding what he wants to do, and he's evaluating. Could I could I give it to Yusef? And then next door, some people that was from the neighborhood, younger guys, they was turning that into a drug house. And so he had talked to them like, man, I might give y'all the house. And he decided not to give it to them. He's like, I'm gonna give it to you. But he already kind of promised it to them. I'm like, that's not my fight. Like, you gonna have to go and tell them that, not me, because you put yourself in that situation. And he did, and he gave me the house out of respect of the work that I was doing in the community, and took us 7 years to earn the money, or you had to raise the money to be able to rehab it. So in that process, the urban network we was forced to close. The owner ended up selling the building to a guy in the neighborhood who was into drug trafficking, and him and I was of the same age group, but we wasn't. We didn't necessarily grow up together, and so he had a different vision for the building. I was hurt. I was devastated. It was my first official business that I ever ran, and your business like your baby. But then, after getting over my hurt and my pain, I realized like I could take that vision and duplicate it over here. So you see these bar. So this actually comes the from out the original urban network. So like took that same concept. I've had folks some people hired from the neighborhood to help us design it out, do the work. The ceiling, which you have doors on the ceiling, I'm like, I want to do something different and unique. And one day I was at Midtown at the restaurant. They had like not doors, but some boards on the ceiling. Like, I was like, that's kind of creative.
Mm-hmm.
And I, you know what? I could put doors on the ceiling. So mind you, and again, this is almost 12 years ago. A lot of vacant houses. This is when Duggan first kind of get in the office, and they're tearing down houses, not trying to really do nothing with them. So we made the decision to go inside these houses, and we're taking the doors because again, this wood you can't make this wood no more. It doesn't exist. So for me, the doors represents the people who have been pushed away. It represents the character of this community, the character of this neighborhood.
Wow. I didn't even notice that when I came in here.
Yeah, most people don't. And then when they look at it, like, wow. And at the cash, they say, like, there ain't no motherfucking doors.
And I like that you explained like what the meaning behind it is in terms of like the fact that the doors was taken from the houses in the neighborhood. Because when I first looked up there and realized it, I'm thinking like doors on a ceiling to me means like there's no ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can go through it.
Yeah,
You can keep
opportunity.
ascending.
Yeah, and that's. I mean, it has those meaning, but the basic thing of it is that character of the community. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really meaningful too, though, because like doing the work of like preserving is what lays the foundation for you to keep building, though. So that all makes sense to me. I love it. So we are coming up on 42 minutes.
Okay.
The conversation has been amazing. Um, I want to just ask a couple of reflection questions.
All right.
What do you think is most important for future generations to remember about Zone 8?
I think it's beyond Zone 8. It's to your original question, like where you come from. Like I don't come from Zone 8. I grew up in Zone 8. I come from the South. My mother's parents is from Georgia, Alabama. My father's parents is from Mississippi. And having that connection helps you understand how you ended up in the Zone 8. And ended up in the Zone 8 in a Detroit neighborhood. But it was that foundation of Black life that we find our beauty because we come out of struggle. Like we act like struggle just started. No, struggle didn't just start. But because we're disconnected from that history, we think it's much harder, and it's not much harder. It can be actually easier, and I think the knowledge of who you are gives you the character, it gives you the strength, the fortitude to face a white, cruel world, an anti-Black world, that you can still make it in.
Very good. And is there anything else that you want to get on the record that we didn't touch on? I didn't ask specifically about the name Zone 8 versus Northwest Goldberg, but even though I didn't ask, you still touched on it. But is there anything else that you wanted to get on the record that we didn't touch on, including that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll start there. Like, I have no issue with the name Northwest Goldberg per se. The issue I have with all of a sudden is it's the new hot thing. It's now, and as the new hot thing, like we supposed to just galvanize ourselves around it. And as it like our lives need to be validated on Northwest Goldberg, when for decades it didn't exist. The name, we validate our lives on surviving, and out of surviving is what made Zone 8 relevant. And what I and others have been able to do, because again, when we did like the backpack event, like every year we was generating no less than 500 people. And those, again, if you're in Detroit, like you grow up, certain areas, and people like we radio, we talking about coming to 14 Ferry Park, and you're like, okay, 14 Ferry Park, where that's at? Oh shit, that's Zone 8. I ain't going over them niggas. But you get over here, it's a different thing. Mm-hmm. Like we was the pioneers. Even though I wasn't trying to be a pioneer, and I don't even like the word, but just naming it, of like even this house, like we was the pioneers. Like so many other people, whether knew of us or not, have duplicated what we done in Zone 8. Mm-hmm. You have others in Zone 8 who are duplicating the community work we do. And for me, I don't own none of it. It's owned by the people. My only question is make sure you do that shit right on behalf of the people. And so coming to the table and having that conversation, because I think they can coexist. Yeah. But you can't have one trying to push the other one to the side. Like again, I'm totally against Zone 8 in the sense of the violence, against the drugs, all the negative or the criminal behavior. But I understand most of them have not had the opportunity to transform, to grow up like I did. In case in point, one of our legendary families, the Crockett's, who Crockett store, they still live in the neighborhood. Their house got broken into, and so when somebody's around like, "Hey, you said you seen such and such?" Somebody just broke into Crockett's house. I'm driving through the neighborhood. I'm trying to find the person because like this is like the last of the meetings. Like this is our president to me. Like you don't do this to the Crockett's, and I'm on patrol and trying to find them. They like it was a TV, and I see one of the homeboys a few years younger. And they had a TV, so I didn't put two together. This possibly him, so I approach him like, "What's going on? Like, you didn't get this out the Western man, right?" Like, no, but and I didn't approach him as a gangster. I approached him as a man. And his homeboys who were around, they didn't know me, and they was in gangster mode. And like, no, that's what he's doing is what I would have done too. Because if we're not protecting our own, then why are we here? Right. And this is the foundation for building a community. Because the reality, our community has been vacated. Our community has been neglected. Our community has been forgotten. And when you have all those things happen across generation after generation, hopeless begins to take place, despair, pain, agony, like you give up. And what the Mama Cool House, because again, you take this house and you see what it was, fire condition, etc. Like when we was putting a new roof on here, it was like bringing pride back to the neighborhood because people had already experienced what we did to the first joint because they knew it was for them. I have no issue with community development. The issue I have with community development is when it's imposed on us versus comes through us. Because again, I mean, you do this line of work. You go talk to any grandma, any granddaddy, any uncle, auntie, mama, daddy. They got ideas of how they want their neighborhood to be. Ain't nobody asking them about their ideas. You telling me you gonna build this big old building? Of course I'm gonna like that big old building. Of course I'm probably gonna take my black ass in that building. But the reality of it is that building wasn't built for me though. That's the problem. Mm-hmm. And this is what the work that we're doing, being able to solve the line to that. I think that's what's missing, along with identifying the Crockett's. Mr. Crockett started the 15 block hub, which is a staple in the neighborhood. And numerous other individuals who are my elders, who are my teachers, who love on me. Candace, I can't forget Candace. We lost Candace about 2 years ago. She was off of 15th Street. We lost my mother a couple years earlier than that. Like these are the cornerstones of Zone 8. Like when no one else was here, they was here. They was holding it down. Like every year, Candace would be right on 16, passing out candy to kids on Halloween. Not because she got a grant, not because the city told her to, because that's what she wanted to do. Every year when we do the backpack event, Candace would go and buy school, like what you said, what you need. Come some paper, I got you. Every year when we do the backpack event, my mama, you go buy the food, I'll cook it. Like when people doing events, you go to them, they just got hot dogs, hamburgers, and chips and pop. At the backpack event, you got that and a full course meal. You know, and I didn't mention like we originally started down here at my mama's house. Mm. So just think again, when you invite somebody to your mama's house, you know, I'm really much like your ass. I want you to see my mama, I want my mama to see you, right? Mm-hmm. And these symbolic things, but it grew. And as it grew, I was like me and my big homeboy, you know, like he was a gangster, like what I was talking about earlier, right? And he was talking about like, and he's still on the path of getting his life together, but like he's like, I learned my people skills in prison. And coming home, people didn't see my humanity. And I'm paraphrasing it. They just saw the monster I used to be. And that bothered me. And so as we're talking, like that happened to me as well. Like people like, man, he snitched, and because I wrote a book. Instead of, and my homeboy cut me off. Like, didn't you go to prison by yourself? Matter of fact, then you go to prison for something you did. So how the hell you snitch? And it was refreshing in this dialogue. We're reaffirming our humanity. Because what they say, black men, we don't express our thoughts, our feelings, and we're two different generations. But it also, I saw the pride in his eyes talking about me, and it's like you're an activist. The things that you're doing, you're a better version of what we could be, or the other version of we could be if we had been taught this. I'm proud of you. Like you can give me whatever award in the world, it wouldn't matter to what more than what he told me. Because that's why I do what I do. Who Jack Stone, who's forgotten, but he's a cornerstone of this neighborhood. He's a cornerstone of my life, even though that was negative, the positivity of what I can become for my son and for future generations.
I think that's a great place to end it. I want to thank you so much for your time, for inviting me in. And I'm looking forward to how the neighborhood continues to flourish. And I'll stop it here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.